Welcome to This Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to guide you through this session today, because we are unraveling a classic mystery straight from the legendary court of King Krishnadevaraya. Now, if you're at all familiar with historical folktales, you probably already know that Tenali Rama was celebrated for his razor-sharp wit. But today, we're looking at a very specific case that masterfully demonstrates something that is incredibly relevant to us right now: how human behavior, under the right kind of pressure, will almost always reveal the absolute truth. We're going to look at this ancient story through the lens of behavioral psychology just to break down exactly how a master observer operates. So picture this scenario for a second, and I really want you to put yourself in this position. How exactly do you catch a liar when there is absolutely zero physical evidence to rely on? Seriously, think about it. No security cameras, no written contracts, no fingerprints, no digital paper trail whatsoever. It is purely one person's word against another's. In modern times, we might look for forensic evidence or data logs, but when all of that is stripped away, what are you left with? How do you actually penetrate the wall of a perfectly rehearsed lie? Well, this is exactly the seemingly impossible puzzle that our historical detective was handed. Section 1. The dispute in the court. A clash between two merchants. Imagine the grand royal court of King Krishnadevaraya. It's a place of immense power and ultimate justice, right? Well, suddenly, the peace is just completely shattered by two wealthy merchants who come bursting in, furious, pointing fingers at one another. The tension in the room is palpable. And the king is forced to mediate a situation centered entirely around one specific number: 100 gold coins. And we really need to remember that in this historical context, 100 gold coins wasn't just a handful of spare change. This was an absolute fortune. We're talking life-changing wealth, enough to secure a family's future or completely ruin a business. So that instantly establishes the extremely high stakes of this royal court case. The motivation to lie, to cheat, and to desperately stick to that lie is incredibly strong when a literal fortune is on the line. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Notice the classic he said dynamic we've got going on here. Look at the absolute contradiction. Merchant 1 claims he handed over genuine, pure gold and was given worthless fakes in return. Merchant 2 looks the king dead in the eye and swears he returned the exact same coins he was originally given. There is zero middle ground here. One of them is a victim of a massive theft, and the other is a brazen liar committing fraud right in front of the king. Naturally, the king is totally baffled. With no witnesses and no receipts, he's paralyzed. And so, he is forced to hand the investigation over to the sharpest mind in the room, Tenali Rama. Section 2. Tenali Rama's plan: setting the psychological trap. All right, if you or I were in Tenali's shoes, we might start aggressively interrogating the merchants, right? Trying to trip them up on their timelines or the details of their stories. But Tenali doesn't do that. He doesn't act like a typical judge or an aggressive prosecutor at all. Instead, he takes a step back and meticulously sets up a trap, using 3 exact steps. First, he tells them to bring the coins back tomorrow morning. This is brilliant. He is intentionally delaying the judgment to create a pressure cooker environment. He's giving the liar an entire sleepless night to just let his anxiety marinate. Second, he orders the coins to be placed in separate, highly visible plates the very next day. And third, the absolute masterstroke. He officially calls for the royal goldsmith. Tenali isn't just taking their word for it anymore. He's bringing in the ultimate, undeniable authority on precious metals. He is setting a stage designed entirely to generate massive psychological pressure. Section 3. The culprit's fear. The trap snaps shut. So the next day arrives, and the atmosphere in the court is radically different. As the royal goldsmith walks in, carrying his tools and his magnifying lenses to begin his supposed inspection, the tension in the room absolutely skyrockets. For the innocent man, the arrival of the goldsmith is a huge relief. But for the guilty man, the sound of those footsteps is deafening. And suddenly, the silence of the room is broken. The second merchant completely cracks. Unable to contain his bubbling anxiety, he blurts out, "How much time will the check take? Is it necessary to check all coins?" Just look at the sheer desperation in those words. He's not calmly waiting for vindication. He's trying to rush the process. He's trying to minimize the investigation. He's practically begging them not to look too closely. By asking this highly suspicious question, he has revealed his extreme nervousness. He's basically just broadcast his guilt to the entire room without even realizing it. And this brilliantly illustrates Tenali's real strategy. As the merchant stammers out his panicked questions, Tenali Rama simply smiles. He turns to the king and delivers this incredible line: "I hadn't even made the goldsmith start checking. I was only observing behavior." What a profound revelation. Tenali is never testing the physical coins at all. The goldsmith, he was literally just a prop in this psychological play. Tenali was purely profiling the merchant's behavioral reactions. He knew that the gold wouldn't speak, but a guilty conscience absolutely would. Section 4. The ultimate truth and lesson. The psychology of guilt. The moment those words leave Tenali's mouth, the whole illusion is completely shattered. Realizing he's been totally exposed, not by a magnifying glass but by his own crippling anxiety, the second merchant's defenses just collapse. He immediately falls to his knees right there in the royal court and confesses to the whole shebang. He admits to swapping the real gold for the worthless fakes. The mystery is solved without a single chemical test or forensic tool. And as the king praises Tenali's unparalleled wisdom and punishes the deceitful merchant, we're left with this beautifully clear psychological truth. A truthful person simply does not fear the test of truth. When you're innocent, an investigation is your best friend because it's going to exonerate you. You remain totally calm. But a liar operates in a state of constant defensive fear. The prospect of the truth coming out is a literal threat to them. And because of that internal turmoil, a guilty conscience inevitably reveals itself through nervous, avoidant, and overly defensive behavior. The liar ultimately catches themselves. Which brings us to the end of our explainer today. And I want to leave you with a final thought to apply to your own world. The next time you suspect deceit in your own life, whether that's in a business dealing, a personal relationship, or just a casual conversation, how are you going to handle it? Will you exhaust yourself only looking for hard physical evidence? Or will you take a page out of Tenali Rama's playbook, step back, stay perfectly quiet, and watch closely to see what their behavior ultimately reveals? Because sometimes the most undeniable truth isn't found in what people say, but in exactly how they act when the pressure is on.